Good evening everyone, Late Night Mega here, and tonight we're playing Mega Man 4 for the Game Boy, so put on your PJs and prepare for some cliches. Or this could be Mega Man IV if you're still not familiar with Roman numerals, in which case this will be the closest we ever get to a Dr. Mega Man. And like Mega Man 5, Mega Man 4 has a nice little intro cutscene where we see Wily Saucer letting loose some Robot Masters, and we can also see the Robot Masters that we're going to be battling here. And here's a nice little picture of them. So we've got Ringman, Toadman, Brightman, and Pharaohman, all from Mega Man 4 on the NES. But also note that we only have half of Mega Man 4's roster. In the second half of the game, we'll be battling for Robot Masters from Mega Man 5. And we get some generic explosions, typical of Mega Man intro cutscenes. One other thing I like is that I really like this intro theme. It's probably one of my favorite intro themes of the Mega Man franchise. Another thing to note about this intro scene is that there's no text or dialogue anywhere. It's all done with just pictures and sounds. So that's a very interesting touch on the intro scene. Oh, come on, Mega Man. I didn't make any cheesy jokes yet. You don't have to be like that. Oh, fine. Alright, well, let's get into the game. Ah, Mega Man. Dr. Wily has sent his most powerful robots across the world. To combat them, I have invented a new machine to make power items for you. But to make the items, we need to use special energy items called P-Chips. Collect as many P-Chips as you can and bring them back to the lab. The more chips you collect, the better the item I can make for you. And so I believe this is the first Mega Man game to introduce the concept of the shop. So it's a very nice touch, something that's that the Game Boy Mega Man games did first. At least I think they did. So we'll start with Toadman, and you can see that the mechanics of rain that pushes us back when we jump is here in this game as well. And we have now water that pushes us back. So it's cool that they brought back some of the mechanics from Toadman's stage in the NES game. But it seems like the designers were careless in showing us all this, that they forgot to put enemies in this stage. Oh, well, there they are. Took you guys long enough. Seriously, that whole first part just seems really weird to not have enemies there. And we get some nice freebie P-Chips, and we're back out into the rain. And now there's enemies in the rain. And there's those birds that we remember from the NES version, although this time... Hi there, Mr. Snail. This time you'll note that they only have 2 of the baby birds instead of 3. And you'll also notice that having enemies or multiple enemies on the screen tends to slow the game down, and that is why we don't have multiple enemies on the screen too much in the Game Boy versions. And when it does happen, it does tend to slow the game down. You can't really see it, but because I'm playing this game well and my health is full. But if your health is not full, you can come down here. There are some health power-ups hidden in the falls. We also picked up a B, which stands for there better be more of a challenge coming up. Ooh, P-Chips. And here's something interesting. Let this guy jump twice to avoid damage, otherwise you'll just climb up and run right into him. And that's never any good. This one, however, you can just climb up because his first hop will take you out of the distance of being hit. I don't think I want to try and make that jump down there. Another thing you'll note is that the fully charged Mega Buster will push us back ever so slightly. That is something that is different, and I missed a 1-up. Ooh. And we can't go that way anyways, but if your health is low, there's health pickup right there. And Toadman, he's a bit more difficult than what he was in the NES version, because now when you shoot him, he will hop. But if you time it right, you can still get a fully charged shot off on him without him doing his Rain Flush attack. So that's something. And we get a nice little weapon get screen. And it shows us the demonstration of the weapon, which is really nice, but it doesn't show it being demonstrated on enemies, so half credit? And we get Rush Coil here. This is another good reason to go to Toadman first. And there's our password for those of you playing along at home. And let's go back to the stage select screen. Another thing to note is that the stage will show us when we get the letter, so that's always a nice and appreciated touch. Alright, now let's go to Brightman. And this stage starts off wishing that you had gone to Toadman first to get Rush Coil. So good thing we did that. Oh, those guys return. And they turn off the lights just like in the NES counterpart. Although I do like the items on the floor that will sort of illuminate your... well, they'll show you what is a safe place to land. And here we also have a mini E-Tank. These are new to the series as well in this game. And collect 4 of them and they turn into a full-size E-Tank. If you just have a mini E-Tank, you cannot use it as it is. So it's not like it's going to fill up 1/4 your health. Now here's a new mechanic. Turn off the lights to continue here. Ooh, that was close. Really anxious to get those P-chips. And those platforms will move up and down very slightly, but it's not anything that'll throw you off. And here's the other new mechanic for this stage that wasn't in the NES version. It's, well, whatever these guys are. You hop on them and ride them across, and they get angry and go downward. So then you have to jump to have them go back up. Very simple. And I always enjoyed this Brightman stage more so than the NES version, because it was, well, it was a lot easier to manage. And it looks like we've... ow. Looks like we've seen this place before. And that's one thing you'll notice about the Game Boy Mega Man games. They tend to repeat areas. Let's see, we've been here before, except there was Gumball Machine standing here. So they tend to repeat stage layouts. Kind of like I'm repeating some of my commentary. Another interesting touch about this section is you can't see your health through here. I like that. evil gumball machines, they have returned and they take a lot of hits to get rid of. But overall, they're not too difficult. And these platforms will not drop out on us like they do in Mega Man 4. Another reason that this stage is a bit easier. So I always enjoyed the Mega Man 4 version. And that is the letter E, which stands for that was easy to get. And once again, the P-chip is showing us where a safe platform is. And it does so again, not the one that fell in the pit. That one lied to us. So yeah, there's not really too much danger if you hit those guys that turn off the lights, because well, you'll have the firework guy to turn them back on very shortly, and there's generally not any death pits between them, so yeah, that's interesting. Now, Brightman in this game, I'm not sure if he's programmed the way he is dodged. I'll wait. Okay. Not sure if he's programmed the way that he is in the NES version, where he will use his flash stopper at certain health points, or if he just does it as part of a random base pattern. And you see, you can kind of just trade blows with Brightman and come out ahead. Abuse your invincibility frames. And once again, enemies and bosses in this game don't have as long of invincibility frames as they did in the NES Mega Mans. So that's something to note as well. And for that, we get the Flash Stopper. It works just like, well, Flash Stopper. So that will be all for now, and next time, well, we'll go to one of these evil stages.